One of the challenges with citrus-centric fragrances is their limited viability year-round and their performance. But today we're going to look at a citrus fragrance that is able to surpass these common difficulties and is one of my personal favorites, Mancera's Cedrat Boise. So in this video, what we're gonna do is look at this fragrance a little bit further, talk about my experience with it and why it's one of my favorites, but also really go through the considerations before you look to buy it. Because at the end of the day, fragrances are subjective. I think you should really look at this from your perspective and your perspective solely, but here I'm just gonna try to add some guidance on my personal experience wearing this fragrance quite a bit here in 2021 and moving into 2022 at the time of recording this video. So Mancera is a niche fragrance house based in France and has become known for experimentative use of ingredients and relatively competitive pricing for a niche brand, having their start back in 2008. But of all their products, their most popular fragrance has to be Cedrat Boise, a fragrance that has become hyped for its above average performance for a fragrance that has a citrus emphasis, and oftentimes being positioned as an alternative to another popular niche fragrance in Creative Ventus. More on that later because we'll talk about that a bit more in detail. Beginning quickly here on the bottle, I have an older bottle variation with the main difference being with the screwed off cap rather than a magnetic cap and a different atomizer if you're talking about the more modern Mancera bottles. The atomizer here is not as secure as the current ones used, as it does have a propensity to wobble and you really have to get your finger squared on the top of that atomizer to get a really good spray. Perhaps nitpicking here, but just wanted to specify that difference. So based on who you ask and where you look online, you might get a mixed description on what are the most prominent notes within this fragrance. But I believe the secret success of this fragrance is the use of a lemon top note with a grounded woody base. And in a lot of ways, this is more of a woody fragrance than it is a citrus fragrance. And I think that really delivers on the upside that this fragrance brings, which has pretty solid performance, at least with this bottle that I have here. Off the top, I get mostly a blast of subdued lemon. Most lemon notes have a harsher nature off the initial spray. This one is not so pungent, as you get a lemon mix with some black currant that almost has a creamy and rounded off effect to it. I noticed in a lot of online forums, there is some mentioning of a fruity blast off the top. However, I don't really get much of this. Instead, I think it's more of a focus around that lemon. I don't really get too much with the fruity notes that some people are saying. Definitely get the black currant, and there's a quick arrival of patchouli and the introduction to the cedar in that dry down. Although the initial scent of Cedrat Boise out of the bottle is nice, I think that dry down is really what made me just kind of grab this over and over again. And just how this settles on the skin, I think is just spectacular. As much as I've spoken about the lemon, at the core, this is primarily a woody fragrance and serves as the backbone of why this has better performance and has a complete viability year-round. This woody cedar note is crazy prominent to my nose as this settles with a hint of sandalwood mixing in. And as these strongly appear, the remnants of any citrus basically subside, which kind of is to be expected given the fragility of these notes. I do get a faint hint of leather and oak moss, but the cedar is undeniable and makes this one lean more masculine as it dries down. In terms of performance and projection, I will note that I have an older batch and bottle than probably others will have here, but in my experience, this is a great performer on my skin, as it routinely lasts around 7 to 9 hours with strong projection and sillage for the first 2.5 hours. There have been some rumors regarding some reformulations of this one, which there might be some merit to, giving the teasing of an announcement of a new intense version of this. But still, with that being said, I think this is a wonderful performer in my circumstance for a fragrance that's really oriented for the warmer parts of the year. But now with the overview portion of this out of the way, let's just talk a little bit specifically from my experience. Would I recommend this fragrance? Would I not recommend this fragrance? What are some considerations when looking in the direction of Mancera and especially this fragrance here? In general, I think Mancera provides incredible value if you're looking for that first niche house. Certainly one to include on your list of one to try. And this is probably gonna be at the center, or at least the front of the ones you're gonna try from this brand. Now let's talk quickly about the Aventus clone or just conversation having similarities. Now I get a little bit of where people are going with that, but I don't get it too much. I also own Aventus. I prefer actually this fragrance over that one. The Aventus, depending on the batch, certainly will depend on that. You're getting more of a developed fruity accord off the top. It's almost harsher in a way. Has that typical citrus with that pineapple note. This one, I think with the black currant, and I think that's the common attribute with those two fragrances, there is some similarity, but as this one dries down, I just don't see much of a comparison there. There are some elements here that certainly I think make this comparison have some merit, but to me, certainly some shared elements, but its own unique approach in my opinion. And then also just a couple other things to talk about. I have heard from people out there that are big fans of this fragrance, that they bought newer bottles. They say the performance isn't quite there, or at least where it was in the past. I've always had great performance. I can only speak to my personal experience with Mancera and this bottle that I've had here. I've tried many different additional samples as well over the years. And to be honest, I've always had pretty good performance throughout. But that's my experience. I'd love to see comments also down below. Like, what is your just feeling with this performance? And are you noticing with some newer batches that there's going to be a drop there? Again, there might be some merit here considering that there is an incoming intense version, at least that's been rumored out. There's been some early just kind of teasers for that. That might have a stronger performance. You're probably gonna have a woodier base. I don't really know what the note breakdown of that is going to be at the time of recording this video. But let's get down to the point. Would I recommend Cedrat Boise? Is it worth the hype? It's kind of the most hype fragrance from this brand. Well, there's a reason why this was the first fragrance I decided to review on this channel. And that's because I think this is a great year-rounder, but really a great summer spring fragrance to look at. It doesn't have the pitfalls of many citrus top note fragrances with the performance lacking. It has this nice cedar base to it that I just love woody fragrances and accords. So this is just right up my alley. I'm a huge fan of like Acqua di Parma and their Blue Mediterranean line and just their other just lemon top note fragrances. This delivers some of those elements, not as harsh off the top in terms of that lemon note. It's a little bit more rounded out and kind of creamy in its delivery, but it does have the performance to go along with it from my overall experience. It just works well off my skin. So I would certainly recommend Cedrat Boise. Pending some of the changes maybe coming out, still a really good recommendation for maybe a first niche fragrance to give a shot for, but at least taking a look at Mancera for the first time, I think this is a no-brainer to look at. And I own several other fragrances. This is still one I come back to time and time again. But all right, guys, that's my take on Cedrat Boise from Mancera. What is your thoughts on this fragrance? Do you enjoy it? Do you not enjoy it? What's your just type of experience with the performance and just how it works on your skin? Love to see those comments down below. Also, if you like this style of video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. We're new here on this channel. Really looking forward to it. I love fragrances. This is something I truly have a passion for and looking forward to posting more things in the future. We have a lot of things planned, different reviews, building of collections and lists, and also blind tests. A lot of fun things planned, so definitely subscribe so you can stay up to date with future content. But all right, guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I'll see you all very soon.